Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
I am there's when I first heard your story, when I first found you, I had to watch it 2 times in a row. It was that incredible.
Wow.
So start from the beginning.
Okay. Well, I had overslept. I think it was a Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. And I usually played or went to the softball games. I was a bartender at Daytona Hilton. And I always went to the softball games to watch the other people play. And I overslept that day. And so randomly I think I got a phone call. He was my neighbor, but I think he had moved from Randy, and telling me that he had a friend that had this little Hobie cat, and they were going to go out and sail, and wanted to know if I'd go with him and Christy, his girlfriend. And I said, sure, why not? And so I ended up going out to the beach and meeting them and starting our trek.
Had you ever sailed before?
No.
Wow.
I had not. And, I've been in the water since I was a couple years old, so I was a good swimmer and all that. And but no, I hadn't really been on boats or anything, and not on the ocean, but we didn't even take life jackets.
Oh, wow.
But
had he sailed before?
Yeah. It was his
Okay, it's his boat.
Hobie cat.
Okay.
Yeah. And he had sailed, and he had also been in I don't know if it's Coast Guard or Coast Guard Reserve or something like that. So that's what the story I was told, that it was all good, and we were just going for fun for the ride.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And so we got some stuff, groceries, little sandwiches, and probably, I think it was rum and Cokes,
Okay,
and things like that in the cooler.
Yeah.
Headed off to the beach and took off. We just ate on the beach and then didn't take anything on there. And we went out, started sailing.
How big is the boat?
It's only 17 foot, I think. It was called a Hobie cat, so it's not like a catamaran.
Okay.
It is a catamaran, but it's small. And it was just, for the 4 people. And we just sailed, parallel to the beach for a little while. And then at some point, I remember Randy saying he wanted to go out farther. He was just having so much fun. And I'd never been on one either. So we went out a little bit further. And at some point, I just remember looking off to the coast and to the right and seeing these clouds, but they were like horizontal, or not horizontal clouds. There were these round clouds coming in on the shoreline, way off in the distance and dark, but they were just really odd looking. So I mentioned that, and they were saying, that's nothing or whatever. And we kept sailing. And then at another point, we noticed that we're tilting a little bit and that some water's coming. For some reason, one of the size of the pontoon is starting to, sink a little bit. So we're checking everything, and he ends up unscrewing the cap on one of the holes and sees that there's some water getting in there. So we went back onto shore and did what everybody does, and that's walk to the nearest hardware store and get duct tape.
Oh, okay.
And so we went there, got some duct tape, and went back to the boat.
Fixed it, yeah.
Yeah, fixed it as good as we could. Probably had a couple more rum and Cokes, and ended up going back out on the water. And so by that time, the beach is full, everything's great, but I could still see it was clouding up down at one end. And, we took it out just as far as the last time, a little bit further than probably we should have. And then at one point, we just realized that was a storm coming on shore. And so Daniel, the guy that owned the boat, was, he'd been in this sail before. He said he knew his stuff. He goes, we can't sail in. It's going to just be a quick one on the shore. We'll wait it out here because you don't want to ride into the storm. And so we said, okay. And, as we sat and we're trying to wait it out, obviously the waves were getting bigger. There was some rain and all that. And once again, we noticed that the hull was going, going down a little bit. And so we took off the cap, tried to get what we could, but, it's just a small hole. So it was really hard to get anything, try and get our hands or cup or anything down there to get it out. And so at one point, after a while, it filled up and the catamaran flipped up straight up with the pontoon straight up in the water.
Just out of nowhere. Just
just flipped us all off.
Oh my gosh.
And
could you see shore?
Yeah. We were still there at shore. So it flipped us up and everybody was off. I remember scratching my leg, and the first thing I was thinking, I was going, oh my God, I hope there's no blood or anything, for sharks or whatever. And there was a water bottle on there, and it had gone off. So I tried to swim to it to grab the water bottle. And I was scared. I was like, I don't want to swim too far away from this. I don't know what's going to happen, whatever. We're right here by the shore. So I figured I'd get, somebody will see us.
Yeah.
And so we all swam back and just decided to start, try and get on one side of it and just jump on it, try and out of the water, but just everybody pulling one side. One of the pontoons or like push it. And somehow with the wind and us on it, it flopped back down into the water, normal. So we just, got up there and thank God. And everybody got back on, settled down, tried to get the sails back going, but it was like by that time it was dead wind. So like we're in the middle of this storm that's going on. We got to hit a dead wind. I don't know how long all this took. Probably within an hour and a half or something like that when we're doing all this struggling, and then once again we felt it going, but this time it flipped over. So mast went down into the water. And, we knew there's no way we'd get it back up again. So, again, we had fallen off and everything, but we just swam to it, tried to hung on to the mast, grabbed a pontoon, and it didn't sink. So we were happy about that, but we didn't know how long. So we were looking at the shore. Should we swim? But we were probably a mile and a half off. I mean, we were a good ways off of there, but it was still, daylight. And
what time of day is it?
It would have been probably by the time we went down the second, I would say about 3:00 in the afternoon.
Okay.
2:30, 3:00.
And what time of year is this?
This was end of August.
Okay, so it's light. It stays lighter later.
Yeah. And so we were able to get up onto the pontoon. And at that time we could actually put our knees up on it. So we all got up there, straddled, and then we were able to put our knees up and sit, like this, so we could keep our legs out of the water. And again, the mast was there, and we were just hoping it wouldn't sink. Once we got on it, it kind of settled, and we saw that it wasn't sinking. So we were going, okay, great.
Were you already thinking of sharks at this point?
Well, only when I fell off and I felt like I cut my leg.
Okay.
So at that point, it was just an instant thinking, oh my God, I want to be bleeding in the water.
Okay.
But, so, once we were sitting on there, we just assumed once the storm passed that people would be back out in the water, boats would come back out. But for some reason they didn't. People just went home, and it was kind of end of season. So, but still we expected some boats to be out there.
Did anybody else know that you were out there?
No, not even my roommate. But there was a curfew on Daytona Beach at the time. So long hours into this, we all thought the same thing. So the police are going to be out there, and they'll see that boat hitch, whatever that, and the windows are open. So we figured somebody would come out at some point. I think it was. I don't know if it was 9:00 or if it was 11:00, but we knew at some point they'd see and know something was wrong. So anyways, we just sat and kind of waited, and we were just like, this is crazy, and just talking like normal. But just sure somebody was going to come by, and we kept looking up and raising our hands, but I don't recall. I'm sure there was people, things in the distance, but definitely they could not have seen us on shore. And there wasn't a lot of people at the time. So we ended up just sitting, talking, and as it just kept getting later and later, I kept saying to them, I think we're drifting further out. We're not going in. They would, no, we're going in. The currents are going north. We might hit a little bit north, but we're going back in.
What's the weather like?
It was warm. It was warm, but the water was cold.
Was it still stormy?
No, and it had that had ended. And again, it was more like a storm on shore. We got rained on in the very beginning and stuff, but after that, it wasn't. It was just an odd storm, but it was still cloudy. There was no lightning, so that was good. But yeah, we just didn't. I just kept seeing that we were going further out, and
so you're the one of everybody saying, "Yeah, we're going out."
Yeah, and they just, I think everybody was in denial, pretty much, just thinking we were going to get rescued, and so I was always, I was singing "Row, row, row your boat."
Yeah, right.
Singing "Riding the Storm Out." Just trying to make fun of stuff or keep it lively. And then even at one point before it got dark, we were all talking about, oh my God, we're going to be, probably in the newspaper. And first thing we're going to do is have strawberry margaritas or, whatever, have a party. And this is going to be something to talk about and all that. And unfortunately, it just kept getting darker and darker and nobody came. So, yeah. It was probably, I can't even tell you how many hours. So it would have just been probably 3 or 4 hours before it started getting dark. And all I could see, I remember seeing a few lights at a time coming on the shore. And I was going, oh my God, it's really getting, it's nighttime. They were coming out, I could see lights over here, coming on, come on. And once again, I said, this, nobody's going to find us out here, so we need to go while we can still see shore. And it was Daniel that said no, because this is when sharks feed. This is the time the sharks feed. He said, if you swim, there's no way. He said, there's no way you can make it. And so again, they still had the hope that somebody would be out there and find us. And they said, surely they're going to see that boat, our launch, on the trailer, and somebody's going to come and get us. So we just stayed on. So as we were sitting there, the waves were still, we weren't getting rained on that I recall, but the waves were still coming up more. And whether it was that pontoon that was just getting more and more water in it, we were sinking. So at some point we had to take, our legs weren't up above the water anymore. We had to straddle. So we were straddling, and that's when, once it got dark, that I was getting a little bit worried because of the plankton. There was fluorescent plankton all around. And, if we moved much, it was just all glowing and stuff around it, which was cool, but not when your legs are in there and you're worried about the shark. And, but there was just nothing we could do. And we sat there, and honestly, I can't remember. It's been so long ago now, the timing of when this happened with him. I think it might have been after the fact, because at one point we heard a helicopter. And so I'm assuming that would have been around that 11-ish time at night. We heard a helicopter coming, and you could tell it was coming from New Smyrna, which was south. And so we figured it might be Coast Guard. And the helicopter came. We saw the lights.
Were they looking for you?
We think they were looking for us because, there was lights in the water. Yeah. So obviously.
Did you have any lights with you at all?
Mm-mm.
Wow.
No. Luckily, there was a moon out for a while. And then with the plankton and stuff, and then you could see the lights on shore. So that was really about it. But once the helicopter came, we were going, okay, surely, they're going to see us and everything. Well, it just went around and nothing from that and went away. And then it was probably an hour or so later, a couple hours. So we think that they probably connected to send another search party out, because we heard something in the distance, again from New Smyrna Beach, and Daniel goes, that's a Coast Guard cutter, I can tell by the engine. And we were going, okay, great, thank God. And maybe the helicopter didn't see us or whatever. And so we waited, and it's chug, chug, chug. So it took way long, another hour or so before it even got close to us. And as it was getting close, it wasn't that far away. So we had a couple of us had white T-shirts or something we had on or with us. And I can whistle really loud. So I was whistling, and we were raising the thing, and it turned its engines off. And so we were, pretty sure that it had, oh my God, they've heard us. We were just flipping out, saying, yes. So we were screaming at the top of our lungs, raising our hands, raising the white thing. And, just thinking, oh my God, we're rescued, wonderful, wonderful. And just kept waiting and waiting and waiting. And next thing we know, it turned on the engine and moved on. And yeah.
What was that moment like?
At that moment, we were like, no, shoot. Oh, crap. Yeah. At that moment, that was like heart sinks to your toes, because that was a helicopter and a ship, and they don't see you, and you're really just bobbing around as a little, peanut in the water. And so that was our oh crap moment. And so from that point, we could still see shore, but it was way, barely seeing the lights and stuff. And we knew we were just going out further and further, but there was nothing we could do. It had to be like 1:00 in the morning by that time.
Wow.
And, we were cold, so we just tried to scoot close to each other and huddle and try and keep warm. And then, like I said, I'm pretty sure it was after that incident, because at one point then Daniel was sitting up front, and then it was I think it was Christy, then Randy, then myself, or maybe she was right in front of me. I can't remember. But at one point, because we're getting tired, but I feel the thing moving, and I see Daniel slipping off the front. And so he gets in there, and we're going, Daniel, wake up, or whatever, get up.
He was falling asleep.
Well, we didn't know. So we're saying, Daniel, get back on
gosh.
here. And he goes, no, I can't believe I did this to you guys. And he goes, just the hole will come up more if I'm off of it. And he kind of like was floating away and stuff, like he was just going to let himself drown or whatever. And so we're flipping out because, once again, for me, it's not just about him.
He was in the water?
He was in the water, yeah.
Oh my gosh, fully...
Full in the water and kind of out of it. So, and that's what I was afraid of. And once again, shark just goes through your mind. So it's like, you're not going to be any help to us in the water.
Right, right.
It's not going to be any better with you in the water. And so we had to, really convince him to get back on. It's not his fault. Don't worry about it. We're all going to stick together. And, he came back up on, and stayed with us. And so it got pretty quiet. And I just remember Christy got really quiet. And the rest of us, I kept trying to talk or do, whatever just to keep us awake. And, I'm sure they were talking too. But I just remember Christy was really, really quiet through the night. And then at some point it had gotten really, really dark. And I guess, I don't know what I was thinking. Back then I was going, what happened to the moon? Because, it got really dark.
Yeah.
And it stayed dark, what felt like hours. And I was, because we're all kind of out of it, I was going, is this the end of the world or something? Because nothing, the sun didn't come up. I didn't see the moon again. It was pitch black out there besides what's in the water. And I'm sure that was just like being out of it. But yeah, it was, that was kind of scary for me. And so we just sat and tried to stay awake. And we were cold and out of it. We hadn't eaten and hadn't had any water. So
Are you out of
that
water?
was the worst. Oh, we never had it. Yeah, because we lost that water bottle, so we never had any water.
Oh, man.
Mm-hmm. And of course, that makes you psychologically going, oh my God, I got the driest throat. I'm going to die. But yeah, we didn't have any water. So that was it. The hours just ticked on and on and on. And after the ship came, there was nothing. Didn't hear anything. Nothing. It was just the rest of the night there. And so basically, what ended up happening was because we lost the lights on the shore at some point in the night. They were gone. And that's what I was telling everybody. We are way out now. And couldn't see anything. So again, you're disoriented because it's pitch black. So I don't know where the shore is. I don't know where the horizon. I don't know if we're going left, right, where we're going. And so we made it all through the night. And then at some point, whether, probably 5 o'clock in the morning, I don't know, 4:35, whatever, the crack of dawn, there was you could literally see it on the horizon. There was a light at the bottom. And as soon as that happened, I said, that's the horizon. Shore's the other way. I said, if we lose this and we can't see shore, we're not. I said, we're dying out here. There's no boats. You can start to see, and we're neck deep in water. We're already getting jellyfish stings. And I just said, we're either going to die or we're going to die. So I'd rather die fighting, rather die trying. And so we just talked about it. And again, as the light was coming up, I was going, we got to go. We got to go because we're not going to know where the horizon is, once it's up. And so we talked about it, and Christy was the only one that was, saying I can't swim that well. And I told her, don't worry, the ocean's salt water, so it's very buoyant, so you can flip around and float. I'll stay with you. I don't remember, I think in one of these articles, Daniel said that he had talked about it also with her and with all of us. And, we all decided to go ahead because we were neck deep in water, freezing, no sleep. And, so we decided to take off. And
was everybody in agreement at that moment?
Yeah.
We better just
she was hesitant, but she had to go. We just told, don't worry, we're not swimming fast.
Yeah.
Nothing like that. And again, anytime you're tired, just turn over and float, or float the whole time, backstroke, a little bit. And it's just a lot easier in the ocean than it is in a pool, and we'll just stay together in line, see what happens. And so we started swimming, and I started swimming freestyle. And have always had my eyes open. I always opened my eyes in the water back then. Didn't use goggles or anything. Didn't care. And it started within first 15, 20 minutes. It started getting to me. I was like, I don't know if I really want to see what's up there. And plus, it was salt water. It was bothering me. And then I'd close my eyes, but I'd stop. I'd flip around and look at everybody and make sure everybody were still in line and all that. But then at one point, I started feeling jellyfish stings on my face, right around my eyes. So I said, okay, I'm not going to do this. Because for some reason I thought if I swam the freestyle, I'd be more direct. Where with backstroke, I'd maybe be flailing a little bit where I was going. And so I turned over and was doing backstroke, and I just realized that if I just skim my arms instead of taking them so deep, that it didn't hit the jellyfish as much. So you could kind of just you feel their tops, maybe a few stings on your back, but it wasn't as bad. And then just swam, but it was only like an hour into the swim that I don't know if I heard her or I realized something, and I just stopped and looked back, and then I heard her screaming. And Randy her boyfriend was in front of her, so he was coming towards me, and she was in the back. So, and then Daniel was coming up from behind her. So I just, when I saw her, it was a scream, but then I saw her shoot straight up, and she was pale anyways and blonde hair, but I was close enough to be able to see that she just like really white, like blood had drained from her body. I mean, that's what my first thought. And then plus with that, and she was yelling shark. And I was going, oh my God, because it was just like in Jaws, when straight up and straight down. And she did that twice and then went face down in the water. And so by that time, Randy had heard her. He had turned around and, he was like, I think she's drowning, and I was like, no, she yelled shark. I think she got bit by a shark. And he goes, he goes, I don't know. He said, but I'm going. I got to go back and help her. So he turned around, and Daniel was coming up from behind. So I was trying to yell to him that it was a shark, whatever. And they kept swimming towards her, and I was like, we were too far from the boat. There's nothing I can do. So, it's I said I can't. I'm just gotta keep swimming. Hopefully, I can get somebody will see us, stop for help, or I'll at least make it and get some help. When I get to shore or whatever. I just had no idea, and so I just kept swimming, and I could hear yelling and all this kind of stuff. Not her at all, just the two guys yelling. But I had no idea. I just, like I said, I just kept swimming, and I was trying to keep my bearings so I would go where I was supposed to be going. And it was probably a couple hours into the swim where I could finally start seeing some of the tall buildings. I really can't remember how long it was. But as I was swimming, I could finally see something where I knew I was still going correctly to the beach. But after she was attacked, I never saw the guys again. And so
from the moment you heard that she was screaming to when how long was it before she was gone?
Minutes. Yeah, it was minutes. It was literally, it got her. Later, Randy said, yeah, she had lost her leg when they got to her, that they took the whole leg.
They were able to find her.
Oh yeah, because they were right there.
Oh,
we were all right
gosh.
there. So they actually went back to her, and I guess I found out this later that they actually tried to take her from the neck. I can't remember. I don't think that she was alive at all or able to talk or shock. I don't know when they first got to her. She might have still been, but it's just hard to believe because, like I said, I saw all the blood drain from her body, and they told me later that she didn't have a leg. So they thought maybe they were going to try and find the boat, get her back to the boat or something, but at some point they just had to leave her. They couldn't. It wasn't too long that they were carrying her. So yeah, so right after that had happened, and I was swimming, just kept swimming. I was doing backstroke. Very shortly after is when I just saw like a gray object. I could feel it. I almost felt more like the waves like underneath me or something. So I just looked to the side, and I felt a bump just on my thigh.
Oh, wow.
And then it just, and then it went off. It wasn't a mouth or anything like that, but it was definitely whether it's a shark or fish or whatever. For me, it was a shark because it was large and gray, but I was so scared and that I just, I didn't want to comprehend or think anything. And I said this right away. It was like in a nanosecond, it was like, I'm a fish. I'm bigger than you, and you're not going to get me. And I literally put my mindset that I was a fish and I belonged in the water. It was the craziest thing. And I just started stroking so calmly and just kept going. And that was nothing happened at that point. And so again, I kept swimming, and I know.
And the guys are nowhere in sight.
I lost them within 10, 15 minutes. You can't see because of the waves, everything else.
Wow.
So I never saw them after I got far enough or after they stopped their conversation. I don't know what happened. It wasn't too long after that, so I couldn't hear. I couldn't do anything, nothing. So I didn't know if they were dead or alive. And so, it was just my survival. That's it. That's all I thought about. I was pretty, like I said, I could tell I was kind of hallucinating. I had a little brother who passed away when he was 1 and I was 5. And so, I talked to him and then way into the swim, getting pretty close, and I was pretty tired. I was thinking about just floating, just letting go and float, and I knew the current was going north, and I thought, I wonder where my body's going to land. But at that moment, I'm like floating, And I look over, and all of a sudden I see to the north a little bit, this like a feeding frenzy.
Oh, man.
And so that woke me up like that. And I don't know if it's barracuda. I don't know if it's shark. I don't know what it is, but all it was just a feeding frenzy. And a little bit, to the north, I could see it, all the water and the splashing and stuff. And so that woke me up, and I said, okay, I'll just keep stroking a little bit further. And I started swimming again. And then probably one of the things that happened to me was I was, because I was following this cloud, and I kept telling people afterwards, I said this cloud, it took me, the edge of the cloud took me straight to the shore. And they were going, clouds move. I said, I don't know. I saw this edge of the cloud, and for hours and hours I just watched it because I was doing backstroke. And every time I looked up, I was still going straight into the shore. And but also then at one point when I was doing that, I saw a pier, and a pier was jutting out into the water, and it's coming towards me, this pier. And I was looking at it, and I was going, okay, I know there's no pier there, so I must be hallucinating. So I knew at that moment I was going, so I can make a choice. Do I want to get on the pier, or do I want to go ahead and keep fighting and try and survive?
Oh, wow.
So that was my thought at the moment, that was probably if I'd lost myself or whatever and wanted to get on the pier, that I just would have drowned or whatever. And so I just, continued to swim. At that point, I could see shore. There still weren't boats out, I guess, because of the storm before. And again, like I said, it was kind of end of season. And nothing I could do except continue. Oh, and that's when it was that I heard, I think it was after that I saw that pier. That's when I heard voices. And I thought I was hallucinating, but I realized it was, two male voices going back and forth to each other. And so I whistled my loud whistle. And they yelled back or whistled back or something. And there was no conversation. I think it was just a loud whistle and the echo. But I knew they were alive, and I could tell they were north of me. I couldn't see them at all. But where I was hearing it from. So I said, oh, my God, they're alive. And I was sure Christy couldn't have been with them, but I had no idea how far, with things echoing and stuff, how far they really were. So I just kept swimming my direction where I knew I was going, and made it all the way to where the rip currents were, and wasn't expecting that. I'd made it all that way, and there was one lifeguard there, and just like in the movies, he was talking to a girl in a bikini, so he wasn't looking out. There was a girl standing right below him, and I kept seeing him looking down at the girl. What are you talking to? And I'm hitting the shoreline, and but I can't break the rip current. I'm too tired. And so I'm trying to flail my arms. I'm whistling. And then I remember, okay, side stroke, do a side stroke. Even back then we knew that. So I started doing side stroke, trying to get through the rip current. And I was finally able to get through the rip current. And that's when I was whistling again and flailing my arms. And that's when he saw me. And back in the day, the lifeguard stands had, they were out on the beach, and then there was a main lifeguard tower somewhere else. So on the lifeguard stand, they had this flag, long pole with a flag. So I saw him pull that out and start doing this, which will flag the next stand and the next stand and the next stand, so they can get some, help down there. And then he jumped in, and was swimming towards me, and I was going, I can't believe this, finally. And he's coming towards me, and I had I'd been wearing a bikini, so my top had come untied or something. So he's trying to grab me, and I don't even think they had those boards or anything back then. I can't remember what it was, but he's trying to grab me, and I'm trying to get my bathing suit top on, tied back up, and he's going, leave that alone, just get on the shore. Right. And I get it done, and he helps drag me back into shore, and he's like yelling at me. He's, what the hell are you doing? We got red flag warnings out. He said, you're not supposed to be out here. And he goes, I don't care if you're a lifeguard or not. There's no swimming out here. You know better. I said, I'm not a lifeguard.
Wow.
And I said, I just swam. I've been out in the ocean for about 24 hours. And I think I just swam like 5 or 6 miles. I've been out there for at least 9 hours because I knew at that time, I don't know whether he told me what time it was. It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 3:30 when I got there. I probably been swimming like 9 hours. And, he just laughed. No, but he just laughed. He didn't. He was like, yeah, right.
9 hours.
And then he started looking me up and down and saw all the man of war stings, and I had overexposure, sunburn and all that kind of stuff. I said, there's still a boat out there and there's 2 guys. I said, one of the girls that was with us, I believe, was killed by a shark. And he was just like,
what?
He was just
it's like, wow. Yeah.
And so I said, please, if you can, get somebody, because I think the 2 guys might still be alive. And so, yeah. So they, the beach truck came roaring in, and they took me in, and I tried telling the story, and they took me to the lifeguard stand, got me some, I remember it was a big gulp was all they had there, a big gulp Coca-Cola. And I said, do you want some? I said, yes. And I just drank the whole thing. Yeah. And then I think I passed out, and then they had called an ambulance and continued to ask me the story and all that, trying to get the information. I told them the information about the guys, and so I think they were a little bit north of me, and just as briefly as I could, that yes, we were in a catamaran. We were out there all night. I saw the girl get attacked by a shark, so it was a huge deal, And then being the responsible one, I asked if I could use a phone because I was supposed to be at work at 4 o'clock. And could I use the phone to call the Daytona Hilton?
What?
Yes.
You were going to call into work?
Yes. So I had to call. And I called and spoke to my manager. And I said, I can't tell you anything right now, but I can't be into work. And, when you're a waitress and bartender, that's very important that you're there.
Right.
So she was very upset with me, and I said, I can't tell you. You'll know in the morning. And so that was it. And so from there, they took me to the hospital, and by that time, somehow it was full of press already and the police. And so when I got there, a policeman came out. Actually, I was in a car. I don't think I was in an ambulance. They had driven me. A policeman came out and said, I'm going to take you in the back way because there's all this press out here, and I need to get your statement and all that. So I went in the back way of the hospital and got in there, and they just liquids, sprayed stuff on my body for the stings, and the guy came in, the captain or whatever came in and started asking me the questions about what had happened. And I told him, and at the end of it, he told me that the information was that everybody was found and they were all at a different hospital. And I said, and Christy, the girl? He said, they said everybody. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that, but I just figured maybe they'd rescued out there. I had no clue. So I was supposed to stay overnight in the hospital. I said, no. I said, I can walk. I'll call my roommate and she can come get me. And I think I'll be okay. And they were just telling me hydrate and all that. I didn't have hypothermia. So that was crazy because that's what Randy ended up, he was in the hospital for because he had hypothermia really bad. And so my roommate, I guess they called my roommate, and I probably fell asleep for a while. And when I woke up, they said she had come, but when she found out what happened, that she had passed out.
Oh, jeez.
She had passed out in the hall, but they were getting her together so she could take me home.
Wow.
So I went home, and back then we just had the home phones, but the phone started ringing, and one of the first phone calls was my boss. And she goes, oh my God, I just saw this on the news. I'm so sorry I yelled at you. It was already on that nightly news. She said, what in the world? She said, you don't have to tell me anything. I'll talk to you when you feel better. But it was just funny. And then after that, it was just all the press, whoever could get a hold of me via the phone, they were just calling. And so first night, I finally had to just tell my roommate just to, not answer anymore or to tell him I can't talk. And I went to bed and slept. And I remember that first night sleeping, and it was just complete rocking. I didn't have any nightmares, but I woke up, yes, with the whole thing in my head. But
how did the other two guys make it back?
They swam. I heard that Randy was picked up offshore. That's the boyfriend, that he was picked up, whether via helicopter or something. I heard that Daniel made it to shore, but they were almost 5 miles north of me. So that's what the thing was with the National Geographic photographer that later talked to me because about the currents. And there was an incredible undertow. And so it was incredible that I was able to swim straight into shore pretty much from the boat. And those guys had made almost 5 miles north of me, 4 or 5 miles north of me, because they went more with the current.
Were they together?
I don't think so. They probably were close, but I don't know anything about Daniel. Like I said, he got to shore. They must have been a lifeguard or something, because when I read one of the articles later, he had made a comment to them. So I don't know if it's the police that got there.
Wow. And
spoke to him, but he apparently didn't go to the hospital. He refused everything. Yeah, he refused everything. This is what Randy told me later, is that he left. He went to Key West. He was like really messed up in the head, and went to Key West to his dad's.
Oh my gosh.
So nobody really kind of talked to him. I think Randy talked to him a little bit, but I never spoke to him again. Never saw him.
Wow, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Either anybody?
No, I went to the hospital to see Daniel and talked to him, and then he was like, I said he was just upset. This was probably 3 or 4 days in afterwards, because all the articles were coming out, and he was reading everything, and his parents had come in, and they were showing him all this stuff, and oh no, that's not right. So he was like, when I came in there, I said, you can give your account of whatever happened to you. I just gave my account of what happened to me.
Yeah.
So it kind of pissed me off. This is not a time to be arguing, dude.
Right, right.
So I just kind of left that, and I didn't see him again afterwards. I never saw him after that.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
You've never spoken ever since, and don't know what he's up to?
No, and like I said, we had, we didn't have cell phones. You didn't have email, all that kind of stuff. So, we didn't even know people's last name. Not at all. I mean, just that was his girlfriend. I'd met her a few times. They both worked at Embry-Riddle. He was actually going, I think, to be a pilot at Embry-Riddle.
Yeah.
But she was just working, I think, in admin there or something. But I'm not for sure. But they were dating, so they were my absolute right next door neighbors for a while, but she would come and go. I think she was from Chicago, so she wasn't really living there permanently. Sure. So I met her quite a few times, but we weren't friends. And I wasn't even that good of friends with him either, just neighbors. So yeah. So it was probably the worst blind date I'd ever been on in my life.
Yeah, no kidding. Golly.
But, so, I didn't think it could get any worse, but the next day after it happened, I get a call, and it was from an attorney. And he told me who he was. He's from Daytona, and explained to me that Christy's parents had already been contacted, I believe from Chicago. They'd already flown in last night, and they'd already contacted an attorney, and they asked if they could speak to me about what happened. And this is the next day. So I said, okay. And so I went to their hotel. My roommate took me to their hotel, and went in and had the conversation with them. And the only thing I tried to do, I stayed calm, and I just tried to, I wanted them to feel like she was at peace. I told her about on the boat through the night that she had been really calm, whether she knew something was going to happen, not that a horrible thing was going to happen, but I knew she was making peace or something. And I also told them that, I thought maybe the only reason, maybe why she wasn't flailing, she was swimming okay, but maybe she was on her period. Maybe that was why somehow she was attacked. And they were going, she wasn't attacked. You guys left her to drown. She wasn't killed by a shark. Yeah.
Wow.
You guys left her to drown. You left my daughter. And I was saying, no, that's not what happened. I saw it. And, they just didn't want to believe it. So even after
That's
recanting the
pathetic.
whole story, recanting the whole story. And that was the first time I had to do the full story. At the end of it, they asked if I could do 2 favors for them, and I said, sure. And they said, if we give you the keys, can you please go pick up Christy's car from the beach? Yeah.
What?
Yes. And I was
They
like,
asked you to pick up her car?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And then as I was getting ready to go, I said, okay, well, I can probably, see if my roommate will do that. And then as I was getting ready, can we get another favor? Is there any way you can go? It was the McDonald's or Burger King just down the corner. I guess they didn't have a car with them. They'd flown in and taken a taxi. I don't know. They asked me to go get them cheeseburgers and bring it back. Yes. And that's the honest truth. And that's when I walked out of there and I said, did this really happen to me? Or
Sounds like her parents were.
Am I just a storyteller?
Wow,
yeah. It was the weirdest.
Is that just was that like a coping mechanism? I mean, that's just really odd.
That's about
to ask the person who just survived this situation with their daughter who just died to
go pick up her car.
Wow, that's weird.
Yes, it was very. And I went and told my roommate, and honestly, I don't remember after that. I know we went and got her car. I don't know if I got the cheeseburgers. I don't remember that. Probably did. But yes, it was at that moment where it kind of clicked in my head, like, okay. And I'd already told the story already on the, via phone or whatever. So I kept repeating the story, and I was going, it literally was like I didn't have time to grieve. I didn't have time to do anything. I was thinking, was I really in this incident, or am I just the storyteller, the person that's saying this? Yeah. And and then right after the second day or something, which is, I have one of the pictures here of what they took, they had to call me and actually asked me, one of the reporters, and they come up from Miami, but they were like a European something. Oh, we drove all the way from Miami, or flew in from Miami, and we want to see if you'll put your bikini on and go down to the boat dock where they were supposed to bring the boat in and maybe take some pictures down there. I was like, no.
Oh my gosh.
No. And in the end, I found out the boat didn't make it. The Coast Guard they did find the boat, but as they were trying to bring it back in, hauling it, it broke up. So they never got the boat all the way back to the yard. But yeah, it was pretty surreal. And again, I didn't call my parents right away. I called my brother the next day in California. And I was like,
didn't call your parents right away?
No, because I was like, I didn't know. It was such a weird thing. I was like, okay, well, this is just going to wash over, I didn't take it as, I knew it was a big deal, but it was more about her, not me.
Right.
And so I didn't call them. So I called my brother, and the same thing happened. When I was talking to him, I guess he kind of got pale or something. I remember his roommate got on and said, hold on, what happened? He said, because your brother's like not feeling good. So I was telling my brother a story. And I was like, okay. So anyways, my brother said, yes, you have to tell Mom and Dad what happened. And they lived in Indiana. And so I don't even remember when I called him afterwards or waited for him to fly. He said, I'm flying down there right now. And so he flew down and stayed with me for a few days. I talked to my parents, and and then it was all kinds of stuff, like people contacted me saying, like, I didn't tell my grandma, so it's up in Indiana also. My parents decided not to tell her at the time, right away, and so she ended up getting calls from people in another state saying, "Isn't this your granddaughter?" Because it was all over the United States. The newspapers everywhere. It was very, very, very interesting. And then the attorney, he ended up contacting me again and taking me out to lunch. I told him what had happened with the parents, and he goes, "Look," he said, obviously they're very upset, and they don't know, they feel like you guys left her, but they also know, I've convinced them that yes, it was a boat. It could have been a boat manufacturing defect, because catamarans aren't supposed to sink.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And so that's how it all started, where I guess they actually started a lawsuit against NACRA, boat manufacturer. So John Robinson was the attorney. I still remember him. Very nice person. He asked me if I do a couple things for him, if I would go with him to the boat dealership, but not as, like, almost as a... not a spy, but don't tell him who you are, because I'm going to ask.
Let's just see how it goes.
I want to ask some questions to about this boat and all. So I went with him to that, and of course he knew about the accident already. Didn't know who we were, but he said, "Oh yeah, they didn't have life jackets. They shouldn't have never left that boat. The boat never would have sunk," and all this kind of stuff. And I just, whatever. I was hung out with him for a few days, and he told me that there was probably going to be a lawsuit, and that he'd be in contact with me because he'd already seen Randy in the hospital, and he said he's not in a good state of mind to be able to talk or recall and things like that. And so I said, okay. I said I had already thought about moving to Atlanta. It was end of summer, and I'd been down there a few years and lived in Vero Beach, and then I moved up to Daytona for a couple of years. But I was kind of ready, to get out of the party scene. And it wasn't even about the accident. I already kind of knew things happen. And for me, things happen always whenever I'm about to make a move. And this was a big thing. Yeah. So I said, okay, I guess it's time for me to go. So I let him know that. So, he had whatever, didn't have email, I guess an address or a phone number I had of him. My parents, I think I gave it to him. And later was called after I'd moved there and stuff for the deposition and all that. I had to go back down for the court case. But, in between that, it was before I left. In Daytona, I was a bar person. So I was going to, same bars and things like that, and listen to music. And so every time I went in, it was... everybody knew who I was. There was just free drinks, and oh my God, that's the story, So I was like the little Daytona hero or something. I said, I'm not a hero. I'm not a hero. I'm not a hero. A girl died. I just did what I could to survive. And it was funny. A guy that I had dated a little bit before. We didn't date very long, but he saw me one night and he was like, "Oh my God, my parents want to meet you. My parents want to meet you." And stuff. I was like, okay, whatever. So
trying to date you again.
Yeah. So that was different. And again, I think all that kept me from grieving, really. I couldn't really, it became a story to me, and that's how I survived. Not really having to go back. I mean, I did have, obviously, thoughts of it all the time right after. I couldn't get into dark water again. That was one of the reasons when I moved to Georgia. I don't know how long I was up there, 6 months or something, and I was bartending up there. And one of the bartenders was 10 years older than me, and we made really good friends right away. And one night I was out with her at another bar, and I just looked at this bartender, and Rita, my friend, looked at me, and she's like, "What's wrong?" I said, "What?" She said, "You look like you saw a ghost." And I said, "Oh my God, I haven't told you this, but," and we were good friends. I just didn't ever bring it up to anybody after I left Florida. And I told her she looked like somebody that I knew, and this bartender looked like Christy, reminded me of Christy.
Wow.
So I ended up starting to tell her the story, and she just went, stop, wait a minute. She goes, "You're not the girl that survived, are you?" And I said, "Yeah, I survived." She goes, "Oh my God, my mom lives in Naples." She said, I heard about this story up here in Atlanta, and I kept calling my mom saying, "You got to find out who that girl is. That's incredible. How did she survive?" And the articles, send me the articles and all this kind of stuff. So it was like, she knew the whole thing. And yeah, again, that was like a soul connection or whatever. But it was through her afterwards that she ended up talking me into go and live on a 32-foot sailboat in the Caribbean.
What?
With two people we didn't know.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Because back then, yes, we were up in Atlanta bartending, and she had always loved I don't know. I think she liked
How did
captains
you-
and see things.
How long after this?
Less than a year.
What?
Yeah. I was up there less
You
than
were
a
able
year.
to get out on a sailboat and live on it?
Yeah, I lived on it. And she had back in the 80s, it was pretty good times, where fun times where there wasn't as much danger as people think. She had actually been writing to somebody in from a yachting magazine article. This captain who liked to take crew, he would take female crew free, but you'd have to pay, bring some, pitch in for the food.
I'm still stuck on the fact that you're living on a sailboat
Yes.
less than a year later.
Yeah.
I can't believe
Well, I wanted
that.
to get over my fear because I love the ocean.
That's impressive.
And it's not dark water. So it was in the Caribbean. So I knew I'd be, in the clear water. But yes, that was a tale.
Do you think that's, looking back on that, do you feel like that was that had to have been a positive thing for you to do, right? Like that was probably set some other things in motion for you to get over.
Absolutely. And that's why I did it. It was just because I loved.
That's impressive that you did it.
Yeah.
That you had enough. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
I love
awesome.
the ocean. And I didn't think lightning would strike twice, so that was the other reason. So I said, let me take this opportunity, and we left and we're out there 2 or 3 months. We lived out there, I guess, and the one thing when we went and I actually met the captain, and she met him for the first time. And when we're getting ready to leave Miami, he goes, "Okay, so I guess, Rita, you're the more experienced sailor." and she was like, "Yeah, I sailed Lake Michigan, like 10 years ago or whatever. My family had a thing." He goes, "What do you mean? Have you ever sailed in the ocean?" And she said, "No, just on Lake Michigan, but it's pretty rough." And he was like, "Oh my God." He goes, "What happens if something happens to me out here?" And we hadn't thought of anything. I didn't know anything about sailing. I know how to swim, but I didn't know anything about sailing. So at the dock, he gets out, runs into the bar, and comes out with another man, a young guy named Beezer. "This guy's going with us. You guys are not." "Yeah, this guy's going with us." He goes, "You don't know how to sail in the ocean. I don't even know if we're going to make it across. We got to go across the Bermuda Triangle." And he said that, and I was going, "Rita, I told you I could do anything except go across the Bermuda Triangle."
Oh my gosh.
So the first night was like I was down in my bunk just like freaking out. And of course there was a storm and all this kind of stuff to get across. So that was my intro to all that. And he didn't know anything about my story either. He didn't know.
When did they find out while you were out there?
He did weeks into it. We were out and about, and all of a sudden I feel the boat. He's heeling the boat to the side. And he goes, "That way." He goes, "Beezer, take it." And he runs downstairs and he comes back up with a shotgun. And I was like, "What?" He goes, "We're going shark hunting."
Oh my gosh.
So
What?
he sees shark in the water. So he's going shark hunting for real. And so the boat's heeling. We're just a 32-foot sail, you can like touch the water. I'm seeing shark fins out there. And I just like, flipping out. So I just go to, downstairs, and Rita comes down, and I was like, "Oh my God." I'm like, I can't watch this. And I still didn't say anything, but she ended up going upstairs and telling them, "You got to hear the story." So
Oh my gosh.
that I had to sit down with them with the story. And that captain, he was so nice to me after. He was, he's an older man, because she was 10 years old, and I think he was 10 years old. He was like 20 years. He was wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. The rest of the trip was wonderful. He treated me like a daughter and making sure I was okay. And he actually took me, a lot of ironic things happened because he took me to Spanish Wells, and he goes, "I need you to meet somebody." And so we got off on Spanish Wells, which at that time you had to go just by boat. And it was the only island that it was only white people lived there. So they were like one of the first places to take Australian slaves. And if the black people came, it was just to do the gardens or whatever. Weird island. It actually had some like deliverance stuff.
Oh, wow.
Like, cross-eyed kids and things like that. Everybody's blue-eyed blonde. But he took me to meet this guy named Roy Pinter. And he was a diver, like a spear fisherman, but that dove really deep. And at one point he was in a contest or something like that, and he had gone down and spearfish. I think it was free. I don't think he did have a mask. Yeah. I think it was free diving though. They didn't use the equipment. So he was down deep, got something. And as he was coming back up, he was holding like this. He felt a tug on it. When he turned, it was a shark.
Oh my gosh.
And the shark got him in the face.
What? Oh man.
Yes, got him. And the mask stopped it from, all underneath here was bit, but whatever, the shark got off. Well, I guess he was just a really loved man on the island. And so, the people that were out there saw it, whatever, they were able to get him up to the boat and to a small plane or helicopter. They flew him to Miami and saved him. But he still had, stitches and stuff like that. But he wanted me to meet him because the man to this day, and I don't know how many years that, he was just smile on his face the whole time, happiest man in the world. We talked and just said, yeah, it happened, and just move on with your life and stuff like that. So
wow.
it was pretty cool. Yeah.
What's life been like for you since? I mean, this is a long time ago.
Right. That's back in
ago.
the 80s. Yeah. And that was the 80s, my good years. And after that happened, I also ended up, when I came back to Georgia, Rita went to work for Windjammer, and that's how I met the owner's son. She sent him up to her house where I was living in Georgia and met him. He goes, "Oh, we got a new ship going out. If you want to bartend, you can do it. And come on down, you can do that." So I was on the next thing I did was get on the Windjammer, which is like the pirate ships and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was a maiden voyage, so they had a lot of celebrities, even local or whatever, but other celebrities too. And it just so happened that I found out, which I didn't know who he was at the time, but Joe Alves, my friend Rita, who was the purser, told me, "You know who Joe Alves is?" I said, "No." She said, "He's the director of Jaws 3. He's on here." And so, yes, he's on here. And so she had all my articles that her mom had sent. She's always carried them around and stuff. And because I think she wanted to show the captain or something. And so
total coincidence.
Total coincidence.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're going, we went out. Yeah. I mean, very, just crazy. And so we sailed off, and I have it was, I don't know, the first night or second night that she had, I guess, spoken to him and said, told him a little bit about me. And so he wanted to know more. She said, "I have articles." So he actually came to the bar, met me obviously. And then I have the picture of him reading my article, one of the articles about the story. And he was just like amazed and aghast. And he said, "Oh my God, if I ever do another shark movie, I'm calling you." And I was like, "Okay." Hey. He said, "We don't have cell phones back then, so I don't know how you're going to call me." But yeah. And so that was just, again, ironic things that happen. And yep.
Are you still? Do you have PTSD? Do you?
No. Oh no. I never had it, as far as I know. Every once in a while, because I still, like when I moved to Georgia, away from the ocean, then I would lap swim, at the Y or something. And when I was lap swimming more back then, yeah, after I swam for a while, then I'd start seeing things.
Oh, wow.
And even in the pools.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff happened to me. But
how many years after that?
It would have been a few years, couple of years, but nothing. Again, I don't tell the story ever unless there's something that I just know I'm supposed to tell it. Like something comes up with somebody, random person or whatever, and I know this is something they need to hear. And so it's not like I dwell on it or think about it that much. Well, and in the end, I moved to South America for like 15 years, and nobody knew about it down there, and I just lived my life, normal, and just had my kids and just kept moving on.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what do your kids think of your story?
Yeah, they're amazed. They're amazed. My daughter's always, if not an anniversary, but something comes up, she'll say something or want me to post something. And Jaws just had their 50th anniversary in Martha's Vineyard. And I almost was going to go because Joe Alves is still alive. And I actually went on his Facebook page and sent him a picture of him back then. but I don't know if he reads the Facebook page or if it's somebody else, an assistant or whatever. But I thought about going to the reunion because I knew he was going to be there.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, but I didn't go. It was this summer, and in the end, it's like, yeah.
So, okay, I ask everybody this. Now, obviously, we don't, Christy, it's a terrible thing that happened. But if you could go back and pull this from ever happening to you, if it was, if you could have been off the boat somehow,
right.
If you could pull this out of your life, would you?
Oh, of course not. No, because it all led to everything else. That's what, especially the sailboats afterwards and having that experience and working on Windjammer. I mean, these are, to me, I write. I've actually written a memoir that hasn't been published, looking for an editor.
You hear that? Anybody listening? We're
Yes,
looking for an editor.
I'm looking for an editor. I have written about 340 pages, 350 pages.
Email contact@danbeckeroutdoors.com.
Yes, please. Yes, please. I mean, most people say it should be made into a movie. And so I wanted Scarlett.
I was actually thinking that.
I wanted Scarlett Johansson.
You're going to read the comments of this podcast, and it's going to be like, "Where's the movie?"
I wanted Scarlett Johansson to be me.
Hey, you hear
many
that,
year ago.
Scarlett? But if you are watching,
but now she's too old. Sorry, Scarlett. So, but I was only 20 back then.
Wow.
But yes, that's people that have heard it. Oh my God, this would be a great movie, and again, I wrote the memoir for myself and my kids because I've had a whole lot more experiences, not terror experience of just moving out of the country, starting a business, the whole learning another language, and things like that, and traveling. Just I've survived a good bit, a lot of crazy times in the 80s too, but yeah, putting it all down needs to be condensed. Who cares about what that happened? There's important things that happened or whatever, and I don't know how to edit that kind of stuff. But yes, I'm definitely interested in publishing. All my friends are interested that I publish, but I don't really know how after I wrote it. So we'll see about that. Yeah.
Wow, I'm amazed. I feel like I could have asked you 1,000 more questions if you retold that story again, and you told it in such great detail. I feel like you've told it quite a few times. Yeah,
yep. It's in my memory banks, thank God, still. And the other thing I remember is people would ask me about the spirituality or whatever. How do you feel about God? Afterwards and things like that. And
that was on my list of questions to ask you for sure.
Yeah, and I was raised in the church, but I've been away from it. And I just organized religion wasn't it for me. So, but I've always had a relationship, spiritual and knowing that God or higher power is up there. But when I got out of there, like I said, I mostly talked. People thought, "Oh my God, didn't you, thank God after you came out and all this?" And I said, "Well, in a way I did, but I mostly talked to my brother who had passed away, who I feel was an angel, as I was swimming, for guidance and things like that. But when I did get out, I noticed after I was out of the hospital, after I kind of got my head back together, that everything looked greener, brighter." And I said, the big thing that I noticed was that when I was around little children, even babies, the way they would look at me, and it was like, ooh, he gives me tingles today. Back then that I felt like there was just something, something, because they would look at me with such love and stuff.
Interesting.
I didn't even know them. So there was some kind of a aura or, something that came through with that. But yeah.
Wow.
So that was pretty cool.
Wow.